Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Mike, as always, thanks for the time. How are you?
You think bad taste in their mouth covers that one?
No, I guess not. Not nearly harsh enough, right? I mean, how bad would you say that taste is if you're trying to give an analogy?
Well,
I'll go first.
I thought
I'll go
of
first.
two or three to complete my joke there real quick, and then I was like, I could either go gross or I could go, with some sort of choking analogy. But I mean, I'll just play it straight. I mean, honestly, I've covered this team for a long time, the entire Peyton Breeze era, and that might have been one of the best victories I've ever covered, followed by maybe the worst loss I've ever covered. I mean, it's startling.
Yeah.
What we watched the other day. I have never seen them fail at that many things in one game to that capacity. It was really stunning.
So, what would be the comp then, Mike? I mean, is there a game you can remember where they played so well and then just fell on their face? I mean, I can remember some of the fall on your face games, like a couple of years ago on that Thursday night against Atlanta was a fall on your face game, in the dome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some of those, but I don't know if you've seen just the stark contrast that you saw Green Bay to
Right.
Carolina 1-2.
Right. No, I think statistically that was the previously worst against Atlanta, and that was, I think, like a 1-8 Atlanta team, and it was coming off a bye week. So, as far as which one was more stunning, I'd say those two were pretty equal. But as far as stark contrast, you're right. That's what I've never seen before. I mean, we were ready to say this team's going to the Super Bowl, and now they look like, oh my God, how are they possibly going to get to the playoffs? But I will say this: Carolina, that was good. Fantastic defense and some fantastic scheming and some fantastic concepts they come up with to take advantage of a weakness that we didn't pay enough attention to. That Eric McCoy took over the protection calls this year with Drew Brees retired, and then Eric McCoy was out of the game. So they said, why don't we throw more blitzes and looks at this team than we think they can handle, and it worked to perfection. I mean, 1 week after Sean Payton, I think, had one of the best coaching performances he's ever had. He got out, the Saints got out-coached in this one, and then obviously they were missing a lot of coaches too. So there are a lot of reasons with the players that were missing, the coaches that were missing, the game plan Carolina came up with. There are a lot of reasons to believe this could be a bit of a one-off, but there's some issues with this team that we know they're not perfect.
Yeah. The Eric McCoy injury and the subsequent disaster there, it didn't surprise me, Mike. It's something we talked about all last week. Now, the injury report came out today, and I'm looking at it right now. I don't know if you had a chance to see it yet, but
Yeah.
Eric McCoy was the only player that did not practice today. Everybody else was back. So let's walk through the significance of having C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Marshawn Lattimore and Pete Werner and Tano Pascal, all these guys back at practice.
Well, I'll start by saying it is good. We saw Eric McCoy on the practice field. He was in, T-shirt, sweats or whatever, pre-clothes and not practicing yet. But combined with the fact that he was not placed on injured reserve, which would automatically slide him for 3 weeks, is a good sign that they're hoping he can be back in less than 3 weeks. I don't know if this week that'll happen, but maybe next week. So good sign for him. And then we also have to remember him being the only one who didn't miss practice. They did place 3 guys on injured reserve last week: Marcus Davenport, Quan Alexander, and Chase Hansen. So those 3 guys will be out for at least 3 weeks. But the other ones, that is huge. Marshawn Lattimore and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, that makes them one of the strongest secondaries in the league when those 2 guys are playing well, and when you don't have them, that's a huge loss. And then the other 2 guys, a little more depth with Werner and Pascal. But I would say this: the defense actually got its act together at some point during that game after a really lousy first half. I thought the defense fought really hard in the third quarter last week, and the positive feelings that I had about the defense after seeing them this preseason and seeing them against Green Bay did not go away with that game. most of the major concerns are all on the offense right now.
One more on defense. We will switch back to offense then, but one more on the defensive side of the ball. What about the matchup? Have you started to look at what having Lattimore and C.J. Gardner-Johnson back against this New England offense with a rookie quarterback may look like?
I don't know. I mean, Mac Jones's early numbers are a little bit more of the short, conservative passes. You know, they invested in tight ends. That's what they want to do. So I don't necessarily, even though he is a rookie quarterback, I don't think we look at it as the same. Oh, they can get this guy to implode as if they were playing Zach Wilson, who just threw, 4 interceptions for the Jets the other day. But yeah, without question. I mean, I think what New England is going to want to do on offense, they have a very good run game. They have a good offensive line, like I said, tight ends. I think they're going to want to win the time of possession. They're going to want to follow that blueprint. They're not going to want to get many free turnovers, and they're going to want to play it safe on offense, quote unquote, where the only way the Saints can really put pressure on him is if they're forcing him to match points with them. And so again, I took it back to the offense.
All right, well then let's talk about the offense. Mike Triplett's with us for a couple of minutes. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. All right, so what is the most glaring issue that they have to fix last week to this week to be able to go to New England and win?
Well, it's obviously the protections. I mean, I don't even blame Jameis Winston that much, even though the 2 interceptions were ugly. And, if you have Jameis Winston's reputation, you probably should not put those interceptions on your tape just for the sake of not letting the media keep showing them and being like, look, this is the kind of pass Jameis Winston makes. They both made sense at the time. They were desperate situations when he threw up desperate throws. But he never had a moment to throw in this game. I'm not sure I've ever seen a quarterback for the Saints have less time to ever even get anything started. Now, that's not to completely exonerate him. There were some times where he could have hit Alvin Kamara with a check down or run for a first down or thrown it away sooner or not tried to throw a 50-yard pass while he was being hit. They got to protect him. They got to give him a little time in the pocket. And it's so startling because they gave him so much time against Green Bay that the offensive line looked like it was the best offensive line in the league. So I think they can get some of these things corrected. But Bill Belichick is going to challenge them to make sure they got them corrected. So they're going to have to figure a lot of things out as far as that goes.
Are they capable, Mike, of fixing this on the offensive line week to week?
Sure. I mean, look, the thing that I would have said all off season, and I especially would have said after week 1, is their offensive line is probably the number one reason to have confidence in the Saints. And Eric McCoy went out in like the 5th play of the game in week 1. So the Calvin Throckmorton was playing right guard against the Packers. Cesar Ruiz was playing center against the Packers, and they dominated up front. So we know they can be good. We know they won't be as bad as what we just saw. But it is a reminder that among the many things Drew Brees did well was he was a quarterback who handled protections, and this year they handed that duty over to Eric McCoy, and now they're handing it over to Cesar Ruiz, and Jameis Winston they'll probably make some changes to how they're calling out those communications. But it's a work in progress of something that we took for granted for a decade and a half.
Mike, just a couple more. One, I did want to ask about the receiver position. They restructured Tre'Quan Smith's deal. Are they going to sign Kenny Stills to the active roster?
I don't know where he fits for sure. I mean, the fact that they felt they needed to sign him before that game, and then the fact that receivers did nothing in that game, maybe they will definitely mix it up. But I don't see how you put Stills up unless you're putting Chris Hogan or Lil Jordan Humphrey down. It's not like you need 7 receivers to play in a football game. So I don't know for sure. But the finances of the Tre'Quan Smith thing wasn't necessarily to afford another player. We talked all off season about what the salary cap is like for the top 51 players. And once the season starts to become the entire roster, including players on injured reserve. So they need a little money for that. And obviously Marshawn Lattimore's new deal. They had already done the restructuring on Marshawn Lattimore's new deal to make it as cheap as possible. So they actually have to fit that one in. So that's bookkeeping, not necessarily setting up for a move that hasn't happened yet.
Got it. Are you flying to Foxborough today?
Yeah, I am in the airport, and I thought I found a quiet spot until that last one.
It happens, man. No, we appreciate you for soldiering through it. But before you go, I did want to ask you. I texted you earlier, and I loved it. Mike's got a great piece up right now at ESPN.com about Jimmy Graham and his time in New Orleans. And the headline is how Jimmy Graham made history with Gronk and wishes he never left the Saints. So give us a little plug here, Mike. What inspired you to track down Jimmy Graham and write this piece?
Well, I'll tell you what was really interesting about that is I noted that it was the 10-year anniversary of 2011, and I had pitched the idea this summer of doing a story on Graham and Gronk and that incredible season that they had together. And I thought we could talk to Peyton and Pete Carmichael and Belichick and their offensive coaches and the players about, how they, reinvented the tight end position and the different plays that came up and everything like that. And I remember saying to my editor at the time, the hardest element of this story might be getting Jimmy Graham because he's become really reticent with the media in recent years. Well, as it turned out, he gave one of the better interviews I've ever had with anybody. I mean, he was really, really into the subject matter. The stories he told about his admiration for Gronk, hanging his jersey in his house for the first 4 years of his NFL career.
Gronk's jersey. Yeah, Gronk's jersey.
Yeah. Like he said, it was the only thing hanging in his entire house because that was motivation for him. And then, wistfully admitting that, he's a little jealous, still watching Gronk with Tom Brady today and wondering what as he said, not what might have been, what could have been and should have been if he had stayed with Brees his entire career. And, obviously feels like there was more meat left on that bone.
Mike, I mean, the other thing, too, is, he pretty candidly said the quote that you wrote is that maybe some of those that nobody really won in that trade. Like, you got Max Unger. Did it really benefit you? If you're in New Orleans, I don't know, but could some of those playoff losses have actually been wins? That's the first time I've really actually sat and thought, like, man, what if they had Jimmy Graham in 2017 or 2018? Like, how different might that have been? I don't know, man. It's interesting. You wouldn't have gone through the Kobe Fleener years,
Right. Well, a lot of people did point out, actually, that the Saints did court him again when he went to the Packers 3 or 4 years ago. And so he actually could have been around for some of those 17 through 20 playoff teams. But the other, what could have been, what should have been with Jimmy Graham, obviously, is that his first year in Seattle, he suffered a major knee injury, and he was never quite the same after that. But if you do get to go back and do an alternate history where you get, a healthy Jimmy Graham and just get to keep building on the rapport he had with Drew Brees, I mean, obviously, I understood the trade at the time that the Saints had an abundance of offensive weapons and they just always made their offense work. But it was during that 17 through 20 playoff run where they actually ran out of pass catchers, and that became a problem. It's a problem now.
It's a great piece. Go read it. It's at ESPN.com, or I retweeted it. I know Mike tweeted it as well, but it was a much welcome surprise. It popped up on my feed, and I was like, man, this was interesting. So really job well done, man. I enjoyed it. We always appreciate that. No, we always appreciate you, and we appreciate your time. Thanks, man. Safe travels, okay?
Thanks a lot, man.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.